Welcome, all our fans, and this is Black Star Still Rising, and I am your host, Stephen Black Butterfly Carter, and also the executive producer for the Black Star Still Rising. This all comes to you because of the wonderful sponsor we have in the Black Star Project, founded by our late Philip Jackson.
Philip.
And kept on by his wonderful sister and the executive director, for the Black Star Project. And that is that. Lee, why do we have these brain freezes at times? Gloria Smith.
You wanted me to sing.
I would sing the song.
My Gloria.
No, that's enough. Cut you off because you go. Anyway, well, I'm going to tell you who this guest is. It's a very popular guest. That's way back. I'm going to introduce him in a few minutes. But before I do anything else, Dr. Mike, I'm going to have to do the shout out to Amani Payne and to Rocio Santos, our wonderful studio producers who make things happen and give us opportunity to be at our very best. Would you say that?
Without them, we'd be a no-go.
And I got to continue to shout out to our associate producers, and that would be Ellis Taylor.
E.T. in the house.
And there are occasions where you're the associate producer and a guest. That's a pretty good combination, you think?
I think that'll work.
I think it's been working.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been having a series, and I want to share this with you, all of our folks who are watching at the Atlas Center, 79th and Krieger, and the Kroc Center. Do this. Vita voce. Vita voce.
What that mean?
You shouldn't do that to me, you know that. I mean, pass it on.
Pass it on
to other folks.
Don't keep it.
Don't keep it to yourself.
Knowledge is
Let
only
folks
powerful.
know the things that we have been talking about with series, and we had previous series. We had Dr. Yarbrough on that talks about dementia, early stage dementia.
That's my friend.
And what happened when her mother suddenly had the appearances and all the symptoms, and at that point she became the caretaker, the caregiver, I should say. So that's part
of the book, OMG.
OMG. That's part of it. So we're fortunate that Dr. Mike was able to come today, but I want to tell you that you should be aware of the series. And that's why I'm saying viva voce, that you have to pass this on. Retain this, take notes. There'll be phone numbers and things that we'll give you a little later on. And we want you to be involved and engaged and listen to what Dr. Mike will have to say and share with you.
Also, one more thing too. If you miss it, you can go on YouTube and just go on to Black Star Still Rising. All the segments are on there.
You do what I forget to do. I'm glad you did that. But I have one other thing that I had to talk about too, and that's the program that's starting tomorrow at the Black Star Project office at 35th and King Drive.
Drum roll, please.
Yes, it is our program, and what is it called? It is called the... You were supposed to put my notes in order.
Boom, ba-doom, boom.
You got it. Building Chicago's Next CEO. Enrollment is tomorrow. It starts tomorrow. It's a program for 16 to 35. It's once a week, Wednesday, 6 to 8 o'clock. And the theme is Fundamentals of Management. That will include finance, marketing, customer service. And at the end of this program that will go until October, end of October, the people who are soldier through it and there to learn, you will get a certificate in entrepreneurship. So look forward to that. The number to call.
What's the number?
Can you read it for me?
I'll be glad to.
Okay, what is it?
773-285-9600.
Can I hear it again?
Again, over 773-285-9600.
What would I do without you?
And I looked at the list of people that are signing up, and those slots are filling up.
They are.
So please don't procrastinate.
Don't procrastinate.
Don't miss your opportunity.
You don't want to lose out.
And the thing about it is, it's what's that word start with an F? Free.
Oh, that's good.
I'm glad you cleared
free.
It
is free.
It's free, y'all. Seriously.
Tomorrow, give them the number again.
At 773-285-9600.
All right. We got the shout out then?
I like to give one shout out.
You got the shout out.
The biggest shout out I could give out to anybody. My lovely wife, Jill, Run Like the Wind, Washington.
Is that the Delta woman that I met?
For you all don't know, I'm going to teach you something. This is the sign that you give when you're a Delta husband and you see a vehicle with the Delta license plates.
Uh-huh.
I'm about to school all y'all. You do like this for
Okay.
the Delta,
It looks. Oh.
and then you open it up like that for the H, and that represents I'm a Delta husband.
Oh man, she
Watch
taught
out.
you well.
No, I made that up, baby.
You
I
made
made
that
that up. No,
He's
that's
expert.
not even official. So
Folks, he can do
I
a
made
lot
that
of
up.
expert.
My wife.
Just on the spur of the moment.
Extemporaneously.
And you got it. You pronounce it well too. But there's one other shout out. We would not be here if it had not been for the imagination and creativity of Darius Hillman, the executive director
Yes.
of Can Studios.
Yes.
Darius, thank you so much for letting us and do the things that we do, and for doing the things that you did a couple of weeks ago with the DCM. DCM, Democratic
DMC.
DMC. The things you did with the DMC, that was marvelous program. Keep doing that. Keep that innovative programs, and keep studio producers like Imani and
Sorry?
Rocio.
Rocio.
Yes. Keep
In
them
business.
handy. Yes.
Keep them in business. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
live coverage it was.
Yeah.
Now, back to the point. We are again having Dr. Mike here to talk about his personal experience, and this is very important that you understand this. He is opening up to both me and our audience out there some very personal things, but things that are important, that are critical for anybody who might be or starting to see symptoms of a loved one with early dementia.
Yeah. Well,
Mike?
of course, it's always my pleasure to be on the show, but we're not going to spend a lot of time on that. We're going to move ahead to basically my mom fell and she's been in rehab. So you can, like I said, you can go on YouTube and look at the other segments that we have that'll tell you about those things. But now we're moving on because I'm dealing with this in real time. And so now she was in rehab at the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab, and let me give a wonderful, wonderful shout out to everybody on the 24th floor, from the caretakers, from the PT, OT, ST, the food service people, everyone. I thank you all so much, and I know sometimes I might a little bit on the edge because that's my mama, but I had nothing but love for them in the job that they did.
And he is sharing from his heart the things that go through the caregivers. And we're going to talk about the caregivers and what caregivers need too. But go ahead and kind of catch us up to date, continue to catch us up to date. What happened? She had the fall.
She had the fall, and of course, as you already know, Mom has vascular dementia, which I won't go into that. You got to go check out the other segments. And then from that, she fell and she had a stroke. And they also think that she possibly had a seizure because the bottom of her feet were very, very tender when she was admitted to the emergency room. So fast forward, she's been at Shirley for 3 weeks. Thank goodness she got discharged this past Thursday, so we're back at home. But the transition is now I'm the stopgap, which means that in between there and where she's going to the Pioneer Gardens on 38th and King Drive. So we're looking forward to that. And that service is coming up. But I have to stay with my mom 24/7 in between that, because when the stroke has affected her ability to move, as we talked about, activities of daily living, eating, getting up, going to the bathroom, and
Because
stretching
she
by
had all
herself.
this therapy that you have to continue. Like the physical therapy.
Yeah, well, when you go to
speech
rehab
therapy,
and when you go, people don't understand. That's just like the beginning to get you to get home, and that must continue. And it takes the person's desire to get better. That's really, they can give you all the therapy you want, but if you don't continue that and have a positive attitude towards that, your improvement will be inhibited.
And you had some serious discussions with Mom about that and her involvement, and can't just lay back. We'll talk about laying back too, but go ahead.
Well, so like I said, that's where we are. Like I said, we're in day 4, and Mom is in the wheelchair, and so
You had to do some different routines her going in, post, and incorporate that into your daily day also.
Well, see, what happens is, whatever she was able to do before she fell, Now I have to observe her and see what she's capable of doing because strokes affects certain parts of your brain. And you don't know that until you see that person perform physical activities, some which they can do and some which they can't do. Like before, she could use the rollator and roll from her bedroom to the bathroom.
Okay.
But now her legs are very weak because of that, and so she has to sit in the wheelchair. So I had to learn and go through a whole day of training on how to transfer her, from the bathtub.
Is that with that, what's it called, the G?
Yeah, well, it's a strap. It's like a belt.
G-strap? Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like you have to put a belt on. It's like a regular belt, but it's to use to hold them up so they don't fall, and they're trying to get their balance. And so it's a lot of things that you have to do, and I didn't know anything about that. My mom, this is the first time at 80 years old that my mom has ever been sick. So all this is new to me, even though I'm a pharmacist.
And you're learning day by day with experience by experience.
Minute by minute.
Yeah.
It's not even.
Yeah.
And to have to wheel mom to the bathroom and those kind of things and just sit there and stand on the other side of the door while she's using the bathroom and have a conversation with her, kind of peek in there and make sure she doesn't get off balance. Because, of course, we're trying to prevent another fall. And so that's the most important thing. And your loved one will have some moments because, as my mom's favorite line right now, she has what's called righteous anger.
Righteous. That sounds very lofty.
And
grandiose.
let me stand righteous
Yeah, I can
anger.
get angry when I want to. That's me. I can.
So
get
I
angry.
said, well, Mom, what is righteous anger? It
And what
sounds
did what she say?
She said that means that she is angry at everything and she is mad at everybody who does not have dementia.
Does that include you?
Well, I'm smart enough to not ask her, was I included in that? I was like, well, I'm here with you, so hopefully, you give me a pass.
Okay.
So,
Well, she probably will.
But no, seriously, people after they have strokes or with dementia, they have anger. Because imagine if, for example, your computer just turned off. Your computer worked one day, the next day you get up, your computer doesn't work, the phone doesn't work.
Restart.
And you have no idea of your spatial awareness. And so she already had that with the vascular dementia, which we'll talk about what that is in a little bit. But then now you compound that with the stroke. Let me paint a little picture. We got a little time. I can paint a little picture.
Yes, you can.
Okay, so imagine vascular dementia. If you think about the most busiest highway you can think of, and when I thought about it, I thought of when I was in Atlanta. That traffic is terrible. It's horrible. It's cars everywhere. It's a traffic jam. So imagine
you're Detroit. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Well, Detroit's not as bad.
Okay.
New York is bad too. The traffic in New York is bad too.
Right.
But it's a jam. So imagine your brain being a highway with all the cars going north, south, east, and west. So that's how your brain works. All the neurons, all your thought processes are like a major highway. And so as you go from the major highway, then like for people who live in Chicago, you know how you go on the Dan Ryan and you get local lanes and the traffic gets a little congested, right? So that's a smaller highway.
Okay.
And so then imagine that you were getting ready to get off of the expressway and that's the ramp, right? So with vascular dementia, it's a lack of oxygen getting to the ramp, which is the smaller vessels in your brain. So imagine that if a car was getting off and they ran out of gas, right?
Catastrophe.
That's going to block the flow of traffic, right?
Right.
So the analogy is that car is like oxygen that's not getting in your brain to those small vessels. It got to get off to get up on the regular street.
So what comes to the rescue? What are the things that come to the rescue to get that?
Wait, we're not finished.
Okay.
We're not finished. So now here's the picture. So we got that car that's ran out of gas that's going up the exit ramp, right? Now you got all the backup. Then there's an accident behind that. So you already got the jam for the car that ran out of gas, which is just okay. But now with the stroke, that's like there's an accident that happened too from those cars that were behind that car that ran out of gas.
With the things that happened previously. Go ahead.
So let me rephrase. So you got the dementia, the vascular dementia was a lack of oxygen getting off the exit. That's the car that ran out of gas. So that's stopping oxygen, right, from getting off up to the brain. Then you have an accident from the fall, that's a stroke. So in a stroke, you have two types of stroke. You have ischemic, so let's use the same analogy with the accident.
Don't get too difficult with us now.
No.
All right.
I'm breaking it down.
Breaking it down, brother.
So the two types of strokes you can have is an ischemic, which that would be like if the accident was just a fender bender, right?
Okay.
No real damage, but it's going to be noticeable.
Okay.
And then the other type is called hemorrhagic, which means that's a bad accident.
And I ain't going to ask you to spell either one of those because you can't write that down.
And that's okay. We'll send it out.
We're going to move it on.
So that's the combination of things that my mom and people who have dementia, when they have a fall, are dealing with. So imagine if that's my mom's car that ran out of gas, and then somebody ran into the back of it.
But here's some of those other things that caregivers need to be aware of. You were telling me that one of the things that you said that's important, and you as a caregiver are looking for, is that the open mouth checks.
Okay.
In terms of the medication, because I want to talk about that medication and the other follow through. Okay.
Well, I was trying to paint the picture of what that is, because when people think of stroke, they always think of the person's, face being disfigured and droopy, and some kind of deformation, because whatever side you have the stroke on is the opposite side that's affected by that. So my mom doesn't have the physical signs that you think of a stroke. She just has the mental issues, and that's where that righteous anger comes from.
Okay.
And so when you talk about the coping, it's hard for her to imagine she can't do any of the things that
But that little thing about open mouth checks the kind of things you've had to do, that you've had to adjust to, that were done at Shirley Ryan, and now you have to do that.
Right. So, of course, they've taken medications.
Right.
So now that she has a stroke, sometime her vision, sometime her hand coordination is off. So you have to make sure that when they're taking their medication, you watch them put them in their mouth, because she takes 6 medications. So she could go for 3 and 1 might fall. And if you're not close up on them paying attention, it could be right there. Right. And then also after she takes the medication, swallows it, I said, okay, they told me, have to make sure she opens her mouth.
Right.
Because some people forget how to swallow. Because when you have those strokes, it can affect different parts of your brain, and you never know until you interact with that person.
And that's part of your learning on the fly, too. You were telling me about how blood clots happen if the person is not active.
Right.
If you can't let them watch TV all day, they tell us
laying
some of
in
the
the
things you have
bed,
to do.
that's in general. Without dementia or strokes, just being inactive is not good for circulation. We know the body's made to what? To be in motion. And so it's very important that at any age we always move around, but especially people who have strokes, because they're laying in the bed in the hospital for 2 to 3 weeks. Now they're doing physical therapy, but laying flat for so long can cause strokes and clots.
So you had to learn even more about medicine and therapy, etc. So
Actually, the patient care hospital setting that I've never worked in. I've been in retail pharmacy, so I'm not really familiar with the hospital setting, and it was very humbling and enlightening to see how much work those people do. When you're dealing with patients who can't move and can't do things on their own. And I saw a lot of things, and not that were bad, but made me realize that there's always somebody that's worse than you.
Okay.
No, and I'm not the only person. Me and my mom, no. As I looked at the other patients on that floor, I was like, yeah, this is tough, but these people, I saw people with staples all across their head, people who had brain cancer, people who have motorcycle accidents, all kinds of things. So it gives you a perspective that as you all listening to this, whatever you're dealing with your loved ones, understand that you're not the only one, and there are people that are much, much more severely injured than you are and your loved one.
I want you to hit on one other thing too that our listeners will be interested in and should know. You talked about us reestablishing medical appointments. Talk about that concept and how that affected you and what you had to do and what you're doing right now.
For sure. Naturally, there was appointments. The day my mom fell, we were supposed to be doing a lot of her appointments. So through this last 3 weeks.
Her medical appointments.
Yeah, her medical
with
appointments.
Different specialists.
Right, you got to go see the eye doctor. She was going to get see the podiatrist. So now you have to manage taking care of your loved one in this new, what she can do. And then also now I have to reschedule all these appointments. And you have to get on that right away because those things were pertinent at that time.
Is that because of the medications and different medications that have to be balanced in a way?
Well, that's a separate thing. Just rescheduling all the appointments that we missed because of her fall and having a stroke. So now, in addition to that, it's very important, and I'm sure you're going to bring this up. You're talking about medication. When people are in the hospital or in rehab, depending, for my mom's case, they had to adjust some of her blood pressure medication. So now I have to make sure that when I go back, and you all do the same, when your loved one is discharged from a rehab facility, that you, what they call, reconciliate all the medications and make sure that what they were taking previously jives with what the doctor gave them in the hospital, because they're going to control your blood pressure and allow her to do rehab, because if your pressure is too high, you can't do physical rehab because you can have another stroke. So they've given her medication. So when we go back over to the senior care building on 71st, we're going on the 5th. So in 2 days, we'll be going back over there. So we have to reconcile. I'll take all the medications that they gave her in the rehab and make sure they match up with what she was taking prior to having the fall.
I need for you to share, Mike, one other thing. And that is how you cope with this all of a sudden responsibility for your mother and all the things you've had to fill in. But share with our audience about it. They need to know this. Potential caretakers are ones who are already doing the caretaking.
Well, that's the part that a lot of times we talk, and that's one of the reasons why I try to be here and talk about it from a caregiver perspective. A lot of emphasis is always put on the patient, which of course is the other person who's ill.
Right.
But the trickle-down effect that affects the caregivers, the wives of the caregivers, the husband, everybody, all through the family. So for me, what I've been doing as a coping mechanism, first of all, is I pray.
Okay.
And I thank God that I'm in a position to care for my mom.
So the power of prayer has brought you through this. And you talked about faith.
Well, faith.
Mustard seed.
Faith of the mustard seed. Because sometimes in life, I tell people we will all be tested. It's not the magnitude of your test. It's the magnitude of your faith that more than likely will determine your outcome. So faith is very important, because when you're dealing with someone's brain, it's not logical for them not to be able to communicate in the way you've communicated with them for 79 years in my mom's case. Now all of a sudden, you don't understand things that I'm telling you, and I don't understand what you're telling me. So that's beyond the norm.
And I heard a very compassionate conversation between you and your mom on the phone today while we were driving over here together, and how you were very calm with her. And she felt and she acknowledged how much she was thankful to you for what she was doing. So sometimes I can sense that she's not always aware, but still trying to maintain her self.
I have righteous anger too.
Okay.
Too, because I'm like, why my mom? I mean, anybody's mom, anybody's loved one. You don't go down to the doctor's office and say, "Oh, I ain't doing nothing. I like to sign up for dementia."
No, that's not what we
Nobody's
signed up.
doing that.
I got to give a quick shout out for and remind folks about the program starting at the Black Star Project tomorrow, and that's the Building Chicago's Next CEO. And the enrollment is starting tomorrow. This is for ages 16 to 35. 68 once a week on Wednesdays at their center at 35th and King Drive, and the theme is fundamentals of management.
Gotta have those fundamentals, baby.
What's it include? Finance,
773
marketing,
285
Customer service?
96
That's the phone number?
00.
Did we talk about this last thing we're going to talk about?
Hey.
I got to tell you this. This is a little, we're going to bring a little poetry into this. This is from Dr. Yarborough, and I hope that you'll understand. I can give it the feeling. It's called Look at Who I Am.
Mm-hmm.
If I could make my brain do what I want it to do, I'd make it say, look at who I am. I'd tell it to say to the world, look at how well I can walk in the sand. Watch me make my way up and down the inclines and grades on the path that leads to the shore. See the woman climbing up and down around the little hills and children's play area at her favorite beach. Look at the joy in my eyes. I see the smiling faces of little children splashing in the spray pool. If I could make my brain do what I wanted to do, I say to my friends, look at how happy I am that you've come to visit me. Watch me smile as we sit and hold hands and let me know that I'm still there. I can't always make my words come as exactly what I want, but I still want to talk to you. I may not be able to call your name the way I used to call it, but look at who I am, that you know that I still enjoy your company. You talked about that before, about being where the person is, in this case, your mom.
Well, I try to pretend that my mother is me.
Okay.
When I'm sometimes frustrated, which is natural. And so I say, well, how would I want someone to treat me? And I don't look at my mom as my mom. I look at her as if it was me and I'm treating myself.
That's what I heard today.
Yeah.
I heard that today.
Yes, brother. That's just love.
Are
man.
you going to
It's
come
love.
back and tell us some more? We're going to have another episode?
Hey, knowledge is nothing if you don't share it.
That's right.
It's only
Viva voce.
powerful
Viva
when you
voce.
share it.
Pass this on. What I talked about.
Viva voce.
I gave you the phone number, 773-285-9600, again, for Black Star Project and what's happening tomorrow.
Those slots are filling up. You got today
As
is the
we
last
speak.
day.
As
Yeah.
we speak. And I want to thank you folks for coming out today. And know that Dr. Mike is going to be on the scene and bringing you valuable information.
It's always my pleasure.
My brother.
My brother.
Thank you.